become an owner of Chicago Market. So with that, let me go ahead and I will turn it over to Cass.
Hello, everyone. So I am pleased, very pleased to introduce Bridget Williams, who was most recently working in Chicago as a theater technician with the Lyric Opera. And since the theater industry is on a decisive hold for the moment, she has been keeping busy by baking up a storm in Wisconsin. And happily, I just learned so much when we chatted the other day, happily the cottage industry in Wisconsin allows for Bridget to sell her cookies despite not having a professional kitchen. And if you haven't heard of the cottage industry before, it's a business or manufacturing activity carried out inside a person's home, so not a professional kitchen. And Wisconsin recently pushed a ruling through a lawsuit, which now allows state residents to sell non-perishable baked goods, as well as some canned goods directly to anyone in the state. It's actually pretty rare that this is allowed. Minnesota is having to try to pass this law recently, but to no avail. I'll put a link in the chat for more information about Illinois' cottage food laws, which are interesting. So you can check those out there. But anywho, back to Bridget. Not only has she been cranking out the cookies, but she uses local products too in her bakes, which is right in line with some of our thinking, I believe. So Bridget, I'll ask you to take it away now, but first, can you tell us a little bit about your baking history in the kitchen? Oh, did we lose her?
I was muted.
Oh, there she
Sorry.
is.
I'm right here. Sorry, guys. I Wi-Fi issues. My history baking. I have been baking cookies and other things for about 15 years, just for my family and friends. I always liked Christmas cookies in particular, because it's kind of I work in theater, so it's a little bit of a down point in the season, unless you are doing the Nutcracker or something. So it's a great opportunity to use my skills in the kitchen and stay busy. I recently was furloughed, so I decided that this season I was going to start a baking company. So I'm in Wisconsin, and I have a cottage industry bakery called Bridget's Northwoods Bakery, and I bake a signature shortbread cookie, which I've been baking since I was about 12 years old in various iterations. It's a sandwich shortbread cookie. It's my favorite one, and it's kind of popular, and we'll be decorating that one today. But I also bake a variety of other things with chocolate or spice or what have you. Yeah, so I think that covers my baking history.
And some of those, I don't know when people got in, but some of the pictures that we saw at the beginning were Bridget's very own decorative creations.
Great. Okay, so shall I begin? Okay, so first off, we can talk about tools. So typically, I just use a mixing bowl. I hand mix my icing normally, because it's just easier to figure out the consistency. Sometimes with the KitchenAid, it goes too fast, or I put in too much powdered sugar or too little powdered sugar or something like that. So I typically just whisk it. You can also use a spoon, that's fine too. Sometimes I do that when my whisks are dirty and I don't feel like washing them. This icing I use, and this one is for my shortbread cookies, but I kind of cross apply it with various flavorings. And I totally think it can be used in a variety of different ways. Unlike royal icing, which uses egg white, this one doesn't. Royal icing is what you would find typically for those really fancily decorated cookies. But I don't use it because it's considered a hazardous material, so I wouldn't legally be able to sell it in Wisconsin. And it just so happens this recipe works great too. Instead of egg white, as the binder, I tend to use cornstarch. So that works pretty well also. So if you have that around, that would be helpful. And then really it's just powdered sugar, almond extract, vanilla extract. Sometimes I don't use the almond extract. The bare minimum you really need is powdered sugar, vanilla extract, and salt. Those 3 ingredients, you can make a totally decent icing. But today we're going to be using powdered sugar, vanilla, salt, almond, and cornstarch. And hot water. That is very important for consistency's sake. So I have my teapot over there. Everybody else should have hot water. We should be good to go. Okay. Sometimes I sift it if I feel like my powdered sugar is chunky. Sometimes that helps with, you know, like when you're squeezing a baggie filled with icing and it kind of has that, you know, weird chunky bit and then it comes out and it ruins the cookie. That's not great, but I like this brand of powdered sugar. I'm feeling good about it. So we will use that for today. Great. So to avoid washing things too many times when I'm making the icing, I tend to start with the salt. You take a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and put that in your bowl. Then I move on to the cornstarch and I take 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. Honestly, with this recipe, there are a lot of variations. It's not as picky as with baking. You know, if you bake a cake, you can't just like randomly put in more flour. But with this, you got some wiggle room. So about 1 teaspoon of cornstarch just to give it that binder sort of feeling. Great. Then I
just so everyone knows, I put the measurements that she's talking through in the chat in case you missed something.
Cool. So I start with the dry ingredients because now I don't have to wash my measuring spoon between things. So I use 1.5 teaspoons of the almond extract. This is an almondier icing that I tend to use with my shortbreads. So, but honestly, you can use, I've used peppermint before, I've used lemon before, any variety of extracts that you find. I do prefer the pure extracts though. I think that it really makes a better flavor. So 1.5 teaspoons of almond. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And, you know, if you don't have almond extract in your kitchen today and you're just doing the icing with the vanilla, maybe 1.5 teaspoons would be okay. So between 1 teaspoon and 1.5 teaspoons. Great. So now I add the powdered sugar. So you're going to need 2 3/4 cups approximately of powdered sugar, but definitely there's wiggle room with this. And I use this 1/4 cup measure because it fits better in my container. Never realized how long that takes until I'm doing it on camera. So, great. Actually, you know, leave that open because sometimes you have to alter the recipe. Okay, so now water. So I start with 3 tablespoons of hot water, not boiling, but hot enough. Great. And then I just start whisking that. And you will probably notice that you get kind of stuck after a while with the whisking, and you'll probably need some more water. I tend to end up using like 4 tablespoons and 1 teaspoon, but again, that's kind of a guess. Yeah, see, so like that is really chunky, like too much, right? So I recommend adding it by the 1/2 teaspoon, but since I've made this recipe before, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a full tablespoon of hot water. I think I have more muscles in my right arm in combination with this and the whole squeezing this season with the bags.
Wow, that 1 extra tablespoon of water really made a big difference.
Yeah, it does. And you know, how hot your water is really makes a difference too. If you have like kind of lukewarm water, you tend to need more. Because I think the hot water, chemistry-wise, kind of melts the sugar. So I am getting a better consistency now, if you can see that, right? So now here's the part that's a little finicky. So I'm lifting up my whisk and I'm dripping frosting or icing into the bowl. And I'm seeing like a little river of icing going in there, and it should take 5 to 10 seconds. And yes, I do the like 1,000, 2, 1,000, you know, before it completely disperses and flattens out. And right now, I think my water is hotter than what I've been using recently. So I'm gonna need more powdered sugar in this icing, because if I put this on my cookies right now, it's just gonna make a big mess. So yeah, I'm just gonna add, I'm gonna wipe off my tablespoon first so that I don't get my powdered sugar all messed up. And then I'm gonna start by adding 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar just to get that consistency better. I don't know, everybody's gonna have a different result based on how hot their water was. How you feeling about that, James? Okay. Yeah, okay, cool.
It's pretty thick.
It's thick? Okay, so when it drizzles into the bowl, before it flattens out, is it about 5 to 10 seconds? So move your whisk.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Cool. Okay. 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Yeah, I still need another tablespoon of powdered sugar, I think.
I used pure coffee extract, and so my icing is brown. Sad.
Oh no!
I have brown snowflakes.
Oh no! You can put maybe. Well, let me see the color.
It's a cheery brown. I mean, it's like a friendly
Oh, yeah.
reindeer brown.
That's a reindeer brown. Maybe you should decorate reindeer. Do you have reindeer cookies?
Just stars and circles. I can draw a little one, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. You could try putting some blue food coloring in it, see what happens.
Yeah, I will color it.
Okay, here we go. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Yeah. Now, guys, gonna need a little more powdered sugar. I just want it to be perfect so I don't mess up the cookies on camera. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, I'll show you guys. Here we go. And lift. Drizzle. See how it's kind of sticking there at the bottom? I don't know if anybody can see that, but it takes enough time to disperse. We're good. Okay, so I'm gonna get some of this stuff out of the way so you all can see the next steps. How's everybody else's icing, okay? Feeling good? Okay, cool. And I'm lucky enough to have like this perfect little sliding garbage can over here so I can just sweep my table into it. I swear it's not going on the floor. Okay. Great. Okay, so we've got our white icing. I primarily use white icing, I think. I like the way it looks. It's kind of bright. Not that brown isn't lovely, Cass, but I just tend to use that for most of my decorating. Okay, so what colors do you guys have today, like food coloring wise? Anything interesting? Oh, you have all of them. Who's this? John and Emily. Cool, cool. Awesome, I do too. Oh, look, yes, the assorted pack. That's what I tend to use also. Nice, nice, nice. I feel like John and Emily might have those organic ones, which are super fancy. Oh, okay, green and red McCormick. Okay, yes, nice, nice. No, the gel ones, that's what it is. Cool. Okay, guys. So we can do, let's be traditional and do red and green so that James can join us because that's all he has. Okay, so my red and green icing, I'm gonna need my tablespoon again and a little dish and another stirring spoon. I have these like cute little ramekins that I make creme brulee in, which work perfectly for this also. Okay, everybody can see that, awesome. So I tend to start with about 3 tablespoons of the icing that we just made for this. I find that with the number of cookies that I've made in my kitchen and the fact that I primarily use the white, and I know it's a little unsanitary, but you can use your finger and get the tablespoon into the ramekin. Maybe use a glove if you're going to be getting rid of these. Often when I sell my cookies, I am wearing gloves for a large majority of the steps in the process. So 3 tablespoons of the white into this bowl. And just while we're here, I'm going to grab another ramekin. And I'm going to put another 3 tablespoons into that one for my other color. I do like blue snowflakes, you guys, just so everybody knows. Like blue's a good color. Sometimes I'll do like blue snowflakes or sort of like Scandinavian type patterns on a white background. That's really pretty, very popular. Okay, so that's for our red and our green. I'm gonna set those aside. And I'm gonna do one more that is gonna be for a brown one, even though Cass already made one, brown or black. And for this one, I'm gonna do, well, I'm just gonna put 2 tablespoons in this so that I still have white icing left over because I might need that. Okay, and I think we're still good on the white. Okay, paper towels are also useful. I know, not perfectly environmentally friendly. A towel works too. Sometimes I have one. Great. Okay, so let's start with the colors. So with that, red is very easy to make pink. So red, you tend to need a few more drops than normal. So I'm gonna start with 6 drops of red in 3 tablespoons of the icing and just stir that up. Also remember that food coloring is very watery unless you have the gel, which John and Emily do. So that's exciting. Yours will stay consistent a little bit more than mine will. Sometimes I use the gel. but on hand right now I have the regular stuff. So I'm getting something that's kind of that color. It's a little light for what I would prefer right now. So I'm gonna add 2 more drops. So that makes 8 total. I don't need to count for you, sorry. Okay. Okay, that's like a decent red. What do you think? Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's nice, James. Okay, great. Now onto the green. I'm gonna start with 4 drops of icing. And you know, with green, sometimes I make like several different colors of green. As I told you guys, the signature cookie I do is a tree. So I'll do a wide variety of tree colors and patterns. If you want to look, they're on my Facebook page, Bridget's Northwoods Bakery. I used to only do sort of a mint green, but I don't know, recently the richer greens have spoken to me. Okay, I'm actually gonna do 2 more drops, so 6 drops. And these are great, like these 2 colors, kind of a workhorse, because I'll do wreaths with like little berries on them and a red bow, or little holly things, or trees, obviously. There's a lot of options. I just did my aunt some that were white backgrounds with like a green Celtic knot. So that's really nice for St. Patrick's Day, if you're not Irish. Anytime if you are Irish. So something like that I'm gonna go with. Okay. How are we feeling? Everybody still good with their colors? Ready to move on? No, yeah? Yay! Okay. Yay! Okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna do, I have a trick that I tried more recently. I hadn't done this before this season, but it actually ended up working pretty well. I did like a birthday theme that was Art Deco, so it was like gold and teal and purple and black. And I wanted like rich black lines, so it was like nice and geometric patterns, and it worked pretty well because black food coloring kind of sucks and it's really hard to make white black. So I have this lovely little trick where I use a little bit of cocoa powder. I do like the bakers. And a little bit of this thing that I discovered called black cocoa powder. So this, be like really careful with it. Okay, so this is what, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is what bakers use when they're trying to make like a dark black cake or dark black muffins or whatever, what have you not. And it's actually just supposed to be used as a coloring agent. It really does not taste very chocolatey. So if you choose to use this, use with caution. People will do like half the amount with regular cocoa powder and half with the black. For this icing, I'll do maybe a 1/4 teaspoon regular and a 1/4 teaspoon black cocoa powder. And then I have this little black food coloring that I'll add maybe a drop or 2 if I really want that super rich black color. But you know, just using regular cocoa powder in with this icing does make a nice brown if you want to do something like decorated deer or the trunk of a tree, or you know, some accent color. I find that it doesn't really taste super chocolatey. If you put a little less extract in, you get a little bit more of the cocoa flavor. But you know, I tend to just use it as a coloring technique. So I'm gonna start with a 1/4 teaspoon of the regular cocoa powder. Where's my lid? Here it is. Great.
So,
And yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. So I just added cocoa powder to my already brown, so now it's a very good brown icing. But it's it feels like too thick. I could just add water, right?
Yeah, the hot water. Yeah. How much cocoa powder did you put in it?
I don't know. A quarter teaspoonish.
Oh, are you joking, or did you?
I mean, I used my regular spoon and eyeballed it.
Ah, there we go. Okay, yeah. A little bit of hot water, put it in by the quarter teaspoon, or you'll just be playing this stupid game of like, and add a little bit more of the powdered sugar, and add a little bit more of the water, unless you like ratio it.
Okay, well, I won't eyeball it this time.
Okay, so I did a quarter of a teaspoon regular cocoa and a quarter of a teaspoon black cocoa, but I am probably going to have the same problem Cass does, where I probably will need more water, but we will see. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to start with the cocoa powders before I put in any of the food coloring. And it is going to be very viscous, and you're going to kind of mash it. Weirdly, I mean, it looks kind of weird when you're first starting out, so. And honestly, like this one, you're probably gonna wanna taste. And if sometimes I put in too much black cocoa and I don't like the flavor, so I'll add a little bit more almond extract just to make it taste more like it originally tasted. By a little, I mean like a quarter of a teaspoon. Or maybe an eighth if it's, use sparingly. Great, so I have this kind of thicker paste like how Cass was talking about, and that's not ideal. So I'm gonna take my water again, and sometimes I'll like pour the hot water into a little dish because it's easier than trying to pour into a teeny tiny quarter teaspoon. And then I'll add a quarter of a teaspoon of water to my little dish. With this icing, like it can be stored. It doesn't have anything perishable, so like if I'm working all day, I'll leave it on the counter, but I cover it. I think that's really important to stop it from drying out and developing a crust. And while we're talking about that, I think I'm gonna actually put a lid on my white icing, just so I don't have an issue. Maybe the green and the red, mine look okay for now. But you can keep it in the fridge for a few days as long as it's covered. You need to if you're going to work the next day. But when you take it out, it's really important that you get the temperature back down because it's really, really hard to work with cold icing. I've had this issue where I really want it to warm up really, really fast, and I just add hot water and then I'm like, oh, darn, I really shouldn't have done that. Now I need to add more powdered sugar, and then pretty soon I feel like I'm remaking the icing all over again, and that's no fun. It's also really important to re-stir it because it does develop that crust in the fridge. So getting it back to that smooth consistency will save you a lot of headache. So we're having a better time now with this consistency. But as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's not black. And it's like a very, very dark brown. And I want it black. So I'm gonna take my black food coloring and I'm gonna add 1 drop. And this is the gel, so like what Emily and John have, but like a fancy one that costs way too much money on the internet. But it's worth it for this 1 drop of icing, or 1 drop of food coloring in the icing. I'm making a mess. I have a really, really warm fire happening on the other side of my kitchen, so I'm getting so hot in here. Okay. Okay, see, do you see how much darker that is? I don't know if you can tell, but I think it's like black now. And so this technique really saves you from overwhelming icing with coloring, which, I mean, you are all into the local and co-op life, and a lot of the times that overlaps with the organic or all natural ingredients life. And food coloring is not always that great. So as much as I can do to reduce the amount of food color I'm putting in my product, it's nice. Okay. Great. So now I have black, red, and green. I will put the black aside. Maybe we'll use it later, but I know most of you did not have the same ingredients as me, but that's just a fun little trick for perhaps your future. I now have dyed my finger black, so I swear it's not dirty. It's just dyed. Okay. Next, consistency, ingredients, tools. Okay, we're going to bag our icing. So I don't like to let my icing sit in a bag too long, especially if I'm using tips, because they get clogged, they harden, and then you have to rip apart your entire setup to get at the tip, to clean it out, to put it back in the bag, and it's just a giant mess and you waste a lot of frosting, which is not ideal. So I don't put all of it in the bag at once most of the time. Okay, so today, I think the first thing we're going to work on is flooding technique. So out of these three, I'm going to come closer. These three tips. Whoa. Okay. They're very small, and they are all very round. That's because when I'm decorating cookies, I don't like those scallopy ones or like those really thick ones. You know, like grocery store bakery cookies tend to have those very big poofy things on top. I just don't like icing that much. I mean, I like icing, but the ratio of icing to cookie really needs to be correct. And I find that the small tips, rounded tips, allow me to really get the layers right, and I can still do really pretty things and everything looks great. Save the big tips for the cupcakes, the cakes, the things that you need a larger ratio of frosting and icing for that. So I tend to use these three tips, and my largest tip, honestly, I wrote down the sizes and then I lost the piece of paper, but it's approximately, ooh, okay, that big. So it's still pretty small, but for small to medium-sized cookies that are like 3 inches or 3 or 4 inches or under, I find that this works just fine. And again, with the ratio thing, I'm all about that. So I use the large tip first, and we're going to put the white icing in this bag. And then we have these little screw-on pieces, essentially. They're like, it's like a little mechanism where I put my tip on this larger part, and this piece goes into the pastry bag, which I have. I reuse my pastry bags. I try and be a little eco-friendly, especially with the amount of paper towels I tend to end up using. Oops, sorry. So, and honestly, like, I think it's worth the investment because Ziploc baggies, they fall apart or like they explode or they got those weird seams or your icing starts coming out flat because of the shape of the bag. So I think that this is just worth it. Yeah, you got a fancy one, Cass. Is that a fancy big one? Oh no, you don't. Okay, is that a bag, not a pastry bag?
It's just yellow.
Oh, okay. Big. It's like, yeah.
For cakes, I think, but yeah, mine.
Nice. My dad bakes bread. I don't know. I don't have a husband, so I don't. No baker in my family unit, small one. Okay, so, and my little plastic piece at the end of my pastry bag. You can do this with a Ziploc bag. Your Ziploc bag might just break faster because this is just thicker plastic and it can be rewashed. You can also use silicone bags. It's fine. The plastic ones, either, whatever you want. Then I screw this little, it's like a cuff, onto the pastry bag to keep it in place. Great. We will also do one with a regular, how many of you have tips, or do you just all have Ziplocs? Tips, okay. Okay, most people have Ziplocs. Okay, we'll also do this with a Ziploc baggie. When I do this, I try and buy the super reinforced ones because I can be a little bit aggressive. And I'm gonna do the, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna do a different color in that. Let's start with the pastry bag. Let's do that. Okay. I like to put mine in a pint glass. Makes it easier. I also have these really awesome super long spoons. You can also do this with your Ziploc bag. But the Ziploc bag actually is great because you stick one little pointy end down into the pint glass, and then I tend to fold it over so that I have like a little, you know, cup essentially. And that helps you not get icing all over the place. Super great. Great. Okay, you know, I'm going to put some green in this one. So we'll do this Ziploc bag first. I changed my mind. So here we go. We're going to, oh, if you get that little crust on your icing, really start stirring that up again. It's important for the consistency. Really, if I were being extra wonderful, I would have kept all of these covered this entire time. Okay, so I'm going to just start for the...
I have a question. So you said don't put a lot in. Were you just about to say that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it was great. No, you're fine, Cass. I'm going to start with this 1 teaspoon, like not a measured teaspoon. It's okay to guesstimate this, Cass. Just like a teaspoon from your kitchen teaspoon. I'm going to start with 1 teaspoon and stick that towards the nose of the bag. I lift it up out of there like this with my spoon still in it. I pinch the bag and squeeze the icing off of the spoon. Sometimes I'll put 2 teaspoons. I mean, if you're like, oh, I'm really gonna love this green, I want more of this green, maybe then you put it back on your pint glass and you add a little bit more green. And pull it off, squeeze, and pull. So with here, shimmy that over, and then I'll lay it flat on my counter, squeeze all the air out, and then Ziploc the top. I'm not gonna cut it yet because I'm gonna do it with the pastry bag. Don't want my frosting leaking everywhere. So same thing with this. I'll drop the pastry bag into here. With these pastry bags, really love these long spoons, like this extra long spoon. It's like my favorite thing. I only have 4 of them. I really should have like 20. Okay, so my white has maybe made its way to the edges of my bowl a little bit. So I'm really gonna readjust that. Stir. Make sure you don't have that weird crust. Check your consistency. If you feel nervous about it, add a little hot water, add a little powdered sugar, whatever you feel like it needs to get that right consistency. Okay, so I'm gonna start with 1 very long spoon and direct it down deep inside of my pastry bag. Squeeze, pull. Great. I used white the most, and I'm gonna do our flooding technique with the white. So I'm gonna add more to this one. I think that's important. So whichever cookie you want, you know, flooding, but I mean like 1 solid color all over the top of your cookie. Whichever color you're gonna do that with, I would add a little bit more to that bag. It's going to be an adventure to do the flooding with a Ziploc baggie. We'll see how it goes. I cannot promise perfection on my end because it is not my preferred tool to use for that technique. Okay, great. I am going to put my icing out of my way. The bowl. I have my paster bag with my white. I'm going to store this for now in my pint glass, just in case it leaks out the front. You know, I have my paper towel. I'm going to just squeeze and check it. That seems to be coming out nicely. The other thing I do sometimes, if I'm going to take a minute, is I will stick a toothpick in the tip to keep it clean and lay it on the counter. That's totally fine. You know, I'm going to leave it because I already did that. Sounds good. Okay. Okay. Any questions before we get to the actual cookie decorating bit? No? Okay. How are you feeling? James,
wait one second. How did you cut a hole in the tip of your Ziploc bag or?
Not yet.
Okay.
I didn't want you to make a mess yet.
Okay.
So we can do that next. I was going to get there. We'll do it now. I just waited because, again, with the Ziploc baggies, I tend to just make a giant mess because then they leak everywhere. So before I use this, I'm going to wait until the final second, and I'm just going to, yep, exactly, scissors clip. Really sharp scissors would be fabulous. I tend to twist right above the color, you know. I twist above the color, hold it. And with this, I mean, clip small first. It's sort of like, you know, you can't, oh, what's that expression? Like you can't get it back, you know, like when you cut too much is like, I don't know, there's an expression that I can't remember, but just a little bit at first. I'll stop waving the scissors at you guys.
Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, that's the expression. Thanks, Jessica. Okay. Now, it is important that you don't get your little plastic tip anywhere on your counter so that it doesn't get in your cookies. So really, like, the part you cut off, stick in the garbage, or somebody could be eating plastic. I mean, it's probably fine. We've all consumed it. But, okay. So I'm going to take a paper towel. And I'm going to see if I like this line, right? So I just tend to do this on a paper towel, easier cleanup. It's a very thin line. This would be a great detail line. Do you guys see that? Yeah, you know, but if you're gonna use this for flooding, you might need something a little bigger. So since most of you guys are using plastic baggies, I'm going to also make a green flooding bag, even though I probably wouldn't choose to flood a cookie with green unless it's a tree. So a little bit more. Okay, that's a little better. Let's see if you guys can see that. The top line is the thicker one. Yeah, that's probably good. I like that thickness. I could have had a ruler so that you guys would know how thick, but I think that you got the general idea. Okay, so next, you've got your little baggies, you've got your colors. Is everybody ready to move on? Dope. Okay. Oh, the youths these days, I think they use dope. I can't believe I just used that on camera. Okay, so I chilled my cookies because sometimes it is easier to decorate with chilled cookies. It's not great to do it next to the fire like I have ended up accidentally doing before. So move away from your kitchen fire if anybody else has a fireplace in their kitchen. Okay, does everybody, what color are your guys' cookies? Like, anybody have anything interesting? Okay, good color. James.
Yeah.
Sugar cookies. Oh, mostly sugar cookies. Great. Okay, awesome. I am a shortbread girl, so I tend to make shortbread cookies, but they're the same color, so we won't have an issue. These ones are my ones with jam in them. They're a double layered sandwich cookie with raspberry jam from a local farm in Wisconsin. They sell it at my local grocery store. It's very nice. And I have one that's also a sandwich cookie, but it does not have a hole cut in the middle. So we'll also decorate that one so that you guys can see it. Great. Then if anybody has a different kind of cookie, I have some orange ginger cookies here that are large. I really like these spice cookies, or even chocolate cookies are nice for this, for the snowflakes. Again, with my whole like obsession with the right ratio of icing, these I just find the white icing stands out really nicely. It was actually on the opening slideshow, a version of this. So that's nice. So I'll show you guys what that looks like too. Okay. So I am going to show you how to flood first. So I'm going to do it with my tip, and then I will attempt to do it for the baggie so y'all can see the difference in that technique. We'll start with my typical larger tip for the flooding. Can everybody, oh shoot, I feel like, I wish I had James like as a cameraman, like with a one over so you can all see like an aerial view. That would be really nice. Oh well.
We can see your workstation there. It's good. Yeah.
Cool. I'm doing it against the white because I have black counters, and you guys think this is better. Like yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So I have my little paper towel next to me. I keep a toothpick next to me, just in case. And I'm actually gonna put it on my right side because I'm right-handed. Sometimes I also will keep a little dish of water. Remember that dish of water from earlier next to me, to clean up any mistakes that I might make, which does happen. So it's honestly, this icing, it is pretty easy to work with if you really understand the consistency of it. And mistakes can be cleaned up very easily. So I'm going to do the flooding on the brown cookie so that the contrast is easier to see, yeah? So what you do for this is I usually squeeze out a little bit of icing so it's nice and fresh and not dried out on my paper towel, twist the end of my bag, and then I start lining around the cookie, not quite at the edge because it's gonna get thick and start to spread out. So I'm probably like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. Ooh, shit, see, I told you that sometimes you have to clean things up. I squeezed too much icing. I just took my little toothpick and I wiped that off. I'm going to continue lining around my cookie about 1/8 of an inch in from the edge. Great, I get to the end. Sometimes I'll tap it down and wipe it off. Now I'm going to start squeezing in sort of this long strips, pushing up against the previous lane, if you will, of icing so that it gets nice and flattened out. We're going to, maybe this will help a little. Okay. So because I kind of took too long because I stopped to talk to you guys and clean up my mess, I'm gonna pick it up at this point and shake it a little bit to flatten the icing out. Back and forth, not up and down, or gravity is gonna mess up your icing. Then I'm gonna continue where I left off. I feel like I have something tickling the tip of my nose, but I'm not going to touch my face because that's unsanitary. Okay, usually when I'm like halfway through, I pick it up and I shake it. I am with my arm. We're okay, guys. I feel like I have one of those silly shake weights, you know? Okay, so do you see how like that shaking sort of flattened the icing out? You don't have those lines. That's how you know the consistency is good. It's a little shiny, it's flattened. Sometimes it tends to be a little bit better than that, but I started to take a little bit long. So I'm gonna keep going in my rows. The faster you do this, the better and flatter your icing will be. So the bigger the cookie, the harder it is. If you don't have a lot of experience with this, the weirder it'll look with those striations. So because this is a big cookie and it's sort of taking me forever because I'm pausing and stuff, after I'm about a third of a way done, I'm gonna pick it up again and shake it. I like how Kate has an apron on, it's cute in her picture. She's not on camera, but I like it. Okay, so when I get to here, I tend to do a line right along the frosting I just put on, and then I go back along the line on the edge to hopefully blend that edge faster. And then I work my way in sort of a awkward, long, oval, spiral thingy. How you flood your cookie is really gonna depend on the size, the shape, if you have jelly in the middle like I do. Picking it up intermittently and shaking it really helps try to make it as even as it can possibly be. I have this, oh, I have a little hole in the middle. I'm gonna go in there with a little more icing, really flood that out. Okay, I'm gonna shake it again. We're gonna not cut off my face anymore because I feel weird about that. Okay. Okay, so I left this hole deliberately to show you guys, like, things can be fixed, right? So if I'm like, oh crap, yeah, okay. Oh crap, I like need to alter that. Take my toothpick, dip it in the water, just a little, tap it off. Oh. And then go right to the edge and I sort of like tap it with the edge of the toothpick to like push the icing into the other icing from the inside out. And it looks a little funky, and I'll just tap a little more water on it again. There we go. If you feel like you put a little too much water on it, sometimes I'll take a little edge of a paper towel piece and I'll roll it into like a little point, and then I'll just touch it. You know how if you soak a shirt after you get a stain on it, you put it in a bowl of water, like cold water. I don't know if anybody else does this. And then, you know, if you leave part of the shirt out, it like goes and follows the shirt. Okay, yeah, this is sort of like that. If I just tap a little bit onto the water, it follows the paper towel. And then my cookie is not too wet, but I've still smoothed out that little hole, and you can't tell where it is. Let's see, James. Oh, James, very nice. Yes.
So I did like a spiral pattern. I don't know why, I just like naturally did that, and then ended up in the middle with a little blob, and then it just spread out.
Yeah, no, the spiral technique totally works. I tend to get more holes, me personally, when I do that, because I can't see like under my arm. So that's why I ended up doing the up and down. But with I've seen people do that though, and you seem to do it perfectly. So that's great. Great. Okay. So you got your done flooded cookie. for interest of time, maybe I won't do one with the plastic bag. So sorry, but James did it with his plastic bag, so I'm sure all of you were also successful. Okay. What should we do next? Ooh, okay, so snowflakes. We are doing snowflakes. I'm gonna do a snowflake on my cookie that does not have icing on it, this star-shaped one. You can also do it on a circle. That's totally fine too. Sometimes what I'll do is I will take a sheet of paper that I had next to me, and now it's over here. I'll take a sheet of paper, and sometimes I will take the cookie cutter that I used for that shape and put it on my piece of paper, trace the cookie cutter, like so. So I have my little, everybody see that little star pattern? Maybe, yeah. Okay, and then I will think of a snowflake design. So this is a star-shaped cookie, so I'm going to do a 6-pointed snowflake. And this just helps you pre-plan so that you're not halfway through and like, I don't know where to put anything. Ah! I mean, I definitely have a Pinterest board filled with cookies for different holidays. So that often helps me come up with different patterns. And then I alter them based on what I think my skill level is, what I have available, how big my cookies are, how much time I want to put into something, colors that I prefer, all those things. So I'm coming up with a snowflake pattern. I probably did not tell you guys to bring a pen and piece of paper, so I'm sorry about that. You do not have to do this. This is just an optional sort of idea. And you can even get fancy. Sometimes with my custom orders, I'll get some colored pencils out and I'll, you know, figure out which colors look better with other colors and decide what I'm going to do, you know. So yeah, I got my little snowflake pattern drawn out there. I think I'm able to do that. Now, I am going to do this in, actually, yes, I am going to do this in red because you guys will be able to see it better. That's important. And I am going to do it in my pastry bag. And I'm gonna pick, I have a really tiny tip and a medium tip. I'm gonna pick my medium tip for this because my tiny tip I try and reserve for, it gets clogged the most easily. So I try and reserve it for itty bitty details. And this is just a simple snowflake pattern, one color. I'm not super concerned about it, so I'll pick my medium pattern. Put on my bag, I'll get my icing. I'll stir it to make sure that the crust isn't on it anymore. We'll stick this. I know I didn't use the pint glass, guys. That's why it's not super deep in the hole. I know. And I didn't even use my long spoon. I'm telling you to do these things. I'm not following through. Shame. Okay. I also did it, so we're good. Okay, so I got my red. I got my pattern. Everybody at this stage, should I pause? Should I keep going? You can also use the green. You can also use the white, whatever you want, whatever you think is going to look good. We're good, Cass? Yeah, you feel good? Okay. So with my little pattern, I have my rough draft here. I'm going to start, and I'm going to, honestly, if you have a circle, I would start by putting a dot in the middle. That's usually the best way to get an even snowflake. So I do one line, right? Now from here, you know, I try not to do another cross, you know, like go over it again, because then it gets really thick in the middle, like thicker, right? So I'll start from wherever I determine my middle is. You know, if your tip is kind of mucky, wipe it off on the piece of paper towel. Start in the middle and then pull towards you. Nice even line. Turn your cookie. Getting these segments on for a snowflake, super helpful to start like this. I mean, it's kind of like drawing a snowflake as a kid. You start with the cross and then you add the little doohickeys. So that's my first step. Got my nice little even lines. Okay, I got this like whole fancy diamond thing happening over here. I'm gonna, yeah, I tend to, when I do a zigzag, I'll do like one line and then the other line rather than come up and then down. I think it makes like a sharper edge. Does that make sense? I can, if you can't see, sorry, I can tilt this again. What, Cass?
Oh, nothing. I just wanted to let you know that it's 7:10, so we'll keep working. Folks, if you, in a couple of minutes, or really any time you want, if you want to share any of your favorite add-ons to cookies, like decorations that you like to use. I, for one, love a good Reese's peanut butter cup covered in white frosting, and it can become a snowman head. But if anyone wants to share anything, you can also share it in the chat and I will announce it for you.
Thanks, Cass.
Yep. Bridget, if you do, you know the two-tone cookies, like do you flood a cookie and then you go over top with like if you wanted a...
Like this one? Yeah. So this one, you kind of got to wait for it to dry. Like it's too wet right now. Sometimes chilling it in the fridge. I can go chill this one and see if it's good in a little bit. Thanks for reminding me, Cass.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise red in particular, I find bleeds super badly. So if you can really, it's not the most ideal to chill in the fridge, but you can do it. Sometimes I'll chill it in the fridge and then let it go back down to room temperature, but the frosting will be dry then. And then I'll add the red. You can chill it and then for a little bit and then pull it out and then decorate right away. But sometimes it kind of gets a little melty when it's drying. And it also depends on how thick or thin your icing is too. It's really something that it is an exact science, but it's not. You kind of got to get a feel for it. So you see with these little snowflakes, I'm starting at the middle stick and pulling back. So I'm not going zigzag. I'm moving the cookie in the bag, so I'm pulling towards me. I find that that creates a more even line if my hand isn't trying to twist all over the place. Good way to give yourself carpal tunnel. Great. And I add my little dots. Sometimes with the dots, it's really fun to take, I got these little, I love these sprinkles, they're so cute. I'll take maybe this size, well, we'll do the big ones. It's easier to see. These ones, they're sort of like the traditional white pearls, but in golds, which I think is like super fun for Christmas. or holidays, whatever. Works great for Hanukkah too. Looks really cute with blue. And you want to push these on right as your frosting is wet so that, you know, they stick better because it's sort of like edible glue. And you want to make sure you don't have too much frosting or it squeezes all over the place. There you go. So we've got like these cute little.
Oh, that's pretty.
Thanks. Great. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. Anybody have anything done? Anybody have any questions? Oh yeah, let's see, James. Get closer. I can't see.
So my sprinkles are falling off the cookie I flooded.
Oh, John, Emily, that's so cute. That looks great. Did you do the same pattern as me? I think you did. Oh, nice dress. Okay. Oh, good. Christmas tree. Nice. Oh, your sprinkles. Did you get them on? You got to get them on right when it's wet, James. Cool. Tap them down a little. Sometimes I'll use a toothpick and just kind of tap them. Oh, Becca, that's so cute. I love your snowflake. I really also like to use you know, the little glitter sprinkles, you know what I mean? Like the sugared ones for a little extra pizzazz. So sometimes I'll like flood these ones with red icing. And then I'll add some of this to add a little shimmer to it for a poinsettia. What else? I'll also use M&Ms, cast like this, M&Ms as Christmas lights, you know, the little red and green ones. And actually, to cut these in half, this is so silly, but I'll use a pill splitter. So you have your little pill splitter, your M&M. It's just so labor intensive to cut them with a knife. And I stick it in my pill splitter, obviously wash it first. And then I will, it's harder with the, you know, there are different sizes, like the mint ones and these ones are the mint ones. And I find it a little harder to do with the bigger ones, but you do get the little halved M&Ms here. And that's nice. Decoration. Sometimes it sticks better when they're in half. Let's see if my other one is chilled yet. I think we're good, guys. So I've got my white flooded cookie here. And I think I'm going to try this green icing again. Let's see how this goes. I'll do it kind of big so y'all can see it. If you want to do a snowflake on top of this, that looks super cute too. I really like the white flood with a red snowflake or a blue snowflake. Those are super cute. But right now, I'll show you this little holly trick I do. I don't know if you can see me, but here we go. I will start with a line. And kind of loop it so it's the bottom layer of a piece of holly. So I start like that. Then I come up and I'll do another little like V thingy. Think about the pulling towards you thing that I talked about before, rather than the go down and then move back. Like I'll do a V, but I'll start from the middle of the V, right? And then I'll stack it like that. Start from the middle and I'll pull towards me. I'll do that again. So I have 3 little pieces. Everybody can see that, right? Yeah, okay. And then for the little top part, pull towards me. So I have a little holly leaf there. And sometimes, if I'm feeling artsy, I'll get the toothpick and I'll tap it into the shape that I want. You can dip it in a little water if you feel like it's a little hard for tapping. Pretty malleable icing. So I'll do that again. So 3 little V's on top of each other. I'll stack them, starting with the center of the V. And we got 2 little pieces of holly, right? And then, okay, usually I will wait for this to dry so that my colors don't blend. Oh, I let my red sit too long, so it's a little, I should have stuck a toothpick in it. Oops, we're okay though. Get a little off on the paper towel. I'll do a dot in the middle and then 2 on the sides. And now I have a little holly berry. I do that like in combination with other things. Sometimes I'll write like a festive word on it or something like that. Joy, Mary, yada, yada, yada.
Bridget, I have a question.
Yeah.
So these designs that you're making, can we find templates on the web to kind of like recreate what you're doing?
Can I put them there? Is that what you're saying? Or can I?
Or, I mean, are there good like websites or things that we can look for ideas to create some of those designs?
Honestly, most of my ideas, I promise I find on Pinterest, and it's just other people posting pictures of their cookies. I don't tend to watch a lot of the how-to videos, but yeah, so I can't really think of anything specific. Yeah, sorry.
No, but that works because like on Pinterest, if we could find a cool looking cookie and then like print out the picture and.
Yeah, that works the same as like the snowflake thing, like me drawing that ahead of time to figure out the idea. I would say that I just sort of stick with the general rules that I think of. I don't have to, I look at a picture and then I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? And then pre-plan it, right? So I flood one cookie with icing, but then it has to wait till it dries. Then I put the next color and then I determine what order to do it in. And that sort of helps. You can write that down too, like you're looking at something and you're like, okay, how is this going to work? Okay, well, I have to flood this. Then I have dry time. Then I have to do yada, yada. I think that the biggest thing is the dry time in between and the consistency of icing. I think a lot of people think they can't decorate cookies because they end up with a icing mess. And I think that the 2 biggest things are the consistency of the icing and the dry time between colors. And if you can get those 2 things down, and then the technique of, flooding and using different size tips, you can create such a wide variety of things if you know those 3 things in my head. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. And when you're writing words, are you also doing that sort of pull toward yourself thing, or are you writing like you would normally write a sentence?
I write how I would normally write, sort of. I mean, I hold my bag. I do hold my bag like this, so it's sort of awkward because I'm not holding it like a pen. So, and yeah, I tend to sort of do this, and I think cursive works better because everything's connected, so you don't have to try and finish a letter. Yeah, I think that's right.
Cool. That's great. Does anyone else have any other questions? Or would you like to show off any of your creations?
Yeah, Cass, I was gonna let people know before you eat your cookies, before you eat them, take a picture.
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead, James.
Yeah, take a picture of your creation, and if you'd like to, you can email me back when I send out the video replay. You can email me back your photo, or you can go ahead and post it on Facebook or Instagram, tag Chicago Market. And if we get enough photos from all of us and our creations, we'll give out some awards.
Cute.
Awesome. Well, I gotta say, Bridget, you're great. Mine don't look as good as yours, but you know, there's always time. There's always there's time to improve. I mean,
Nice.
only improvement ahead.
It's abstract, team. It's abstract.
Mine's like a psychedelic blob.
It's abstract. You didn't wait between colors. See? Abstract cookies are allowed.
Yes.
Cool. So anyone else have any other questions for Bridget before we start to wrap things up for tonight?
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bridget, really enjoyed the session. I hope everybody had fun, and take pictures of your cookies and then eat them and enjoy them. But thank you again, Bridget, and everyone else. Have a great holiday season. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier, Chicago Market is doing a Neighbors Helping Neighbors campaign. So we're currently raising money for Lakeview Pantry and Ravenswood Community Services. So you can donate on our website through December 23rd. And we're trying to get, we're over $2,500, so we're going for $3,000.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Bridget. Really enjoyed this. Really appreciate your time. And with that, Cass, anything else before we wrap things up?
I don't have a thing to say other than I'm full of sugar, and I'm going to continue with that.
And the most festive sweater in the group. I'm super into it. I just went with my Sally friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, everybody, so much. And I hope we see you again in future presentations. And you're all great. Happy holidays.